Welcome to According to Sam, folks, episode 323. Thank you guys for tuning in. Happy Friday. Hope you guys have had a great week. Got a really good podcast for you today. I have a lot to share, so I'm not going to delay. Let's get right into it. A couple of weeks ago, or last week, or the week before, I guess it was the week before last, when they were having the riots and the looting, the vandalism. They were tearing up Los Angeles because of the ICE raids. I played a clip of this gentleman. He actually went viral. They were playing this street interview on Fox News. This clip went all over. Everyone was commenting on this clip, and I was explaining to you, and the reason that this clip went viral, and I was explaining to you that what this guy expresses in this video is not a foreign point of view. On the left, in the Democratic Party, it is a very prevalent point of view, what this guy says. And we're going to listen to this clip again, and then we're going to get into today's podcast. I just want to start the podcast by, I played this clip of this gentleman a couple of weeks ago, this street interview. This was happening in Los Angeles during all the rioting and vandalism and everything that happened 2 weeks ago. And just to refresh your memory on what this guy says. And again, this is to make a larger point, that his point of view, what this guy is saying, is not a point of view that is isolated to him. It's a very, very prevalent point of view in the Democratic Party on the left side of the aisle of politics here in the United States. Take a listen.
We don't agree with the term illegal. We're undocumented. We've been here for thousands of years before you guys showed up, screwed up everything. We think we should organize together with the U.S. working class and fight together and create a better system. We're anti-capitalist.
We're anti-capitalist.
We think socialism does work. We're anti-capitalist. Together with the U.S. working class and fight together and create a better system. We're anti-capitalist.
We're anti-capitalist.
We think socialism does work, real socialism, not Venezuela, not Cuba, not any of that crap that they try to sell us as socialism. And we believe it would be a more humane system that will take care of most of all people's necessities.
Is there a country?
We believe that socialism is a more humane system that will take care of the needs of everybody. We are anti-capitalist. We don't believe in capitalism. We are socialists. We believe in socialism, and we believe that socialism is a more humane way to take care of the needs of the people.
Humane system that will take care of most of all people's necessities.
Is there a country we can look to kind of model the socialism idea?
The only model would be Soviet Union the first 4 years.
Soviet Union.
It became a mess. Sadly, there was a bureaucrat leadership that grew out of that. But it has to do mainly with the attacks of the U.S. and all big powers against that system that was working.
So the system at the Soviet Union, he says the Soviet Union is the model. And the reason that the Soviet Union fell is because of attacks by the capitalist system of the United States. That's what he's saying, that we're against capitalism. The United States is capitalist, and the Soviet Union was the model for the socialist utopia that we want to implement. We want to implement this socialist utopia that is more humane and takes care of the needs of the people. The model is the USSR. The reason that the USSR fell is because of the evil capitalists of the United States. This guy says, listen.
And fight together and create a better system. We're anti-capitalist. We think socialism does work, real socialism, not Venezuela, not Cuba, not any of that.
USSR socialism.
And we believe it would be a more humane system that will take care of most of all people's necessities.
Is there a country we can look to kind of model the socialism idea?
The only model would be Soviet Union the first 4 years. After that, it became a mess. Sadly, there was a bureaucrat leadership that grew out of that. but it has to do mainly with the attacks on the U.S.
The bureaucratic leadership always grows out of it. That's what that's the point that George Orwell is trying to make when he writes Animal Farm, is that the bureaucratic leadership will always come out of it.
Sadly, there was a bureaucrat leadership that grew out of that, but it has to do mainly with the attacks on the U.S. and all big powers against that system that was working. In the few years that it lasted, it showed the world that it could do much better than capitalism.
So the few years that the Soviet Union lasted before the bureaucratic leaders and the capitalist states like the United States took it down, it showed the world that it could be a better system than capitalism. And again, I don't care about this guy. I don't even know who this guy is. I don't know what his name is. What I'm telling you is what this guy is admitting in this street interview is a prevalent point of view in the Democratic Party on the left. He goes on. This is more of the interview. Take a listen.
Support Palestine 100%. We do not believe
100%.
that the state of Israel should exist because it's a military enclave of the corporations and mainly U.S. and European powers. It's sad that Jewish people have Zionism as their leaders. I think they should get rid of them. And everyone should return to wherever they're from. They're stealing their land, just like the U.S. stole the land from Mexico and indigenous people here. So that's why we support Palestine.
So we support Palestine also. And we're against capitalism. We're against the capitalist system. We want socialism. Socialism is more humane. The model for the socialism that we want is the first 4 years of the USSR. And we also support Palestine. It's all part of it. Bring in Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani is the 33-year-old African immigrant who just won the Democratic primary to be mayor of the United States' largest city, New York City. And he just won the Democratic primary. I don't believe that he's going to win the general election. And the reason why I don't believe that he's going to win the general election is because the turnout was so low for this primary and all of the negative news coverage around his candidacy. He is a Democratic Socialist Muslim, and he supports Palestine. He supports everything that this gentleman supports. But his winning of the primary shows what I'm saying is true, that this guy's point of view is not an isolated point of view. It's not a small part of what's going on here in the United States. This is one man speaking in a street interview, but thousands of people voted for this guy who's a Democratic Socialist. And this guy, Mamdani, believes the same thing that you heard this guy say in this street interview. And he ran on it. He ran on it. And thousands of people in New York City voted for him. He won the primary there. And I don't believe he's going to win the general election, but he does have a chance. He could win the general election. This could be the next mayor of the United States' largest city. And if you doubt or think that I was just being hyperbolic when I said that this is a very prevalent point of view, the point of view that this gentleman expressed in this street interview 2 weeks ago in Los Angeles, if you doubt that it's true, that this is a broad and prevalent point of view in the Democratic Party, you only have to look at the win this week on Tuesday of Zohran Mamdani and how he won the primary there in New York. You know, I mean, if you doubt that it's a prevalent point of view, it's absolutely prevalent. Again, he ran on it. He ran on everything that this guy says, even down to the part about Palestine. Not only the socialist, anti-capitalist rhetoric, the rhetoric about Palestine and anti-Israel rhetoric that this guy is spewing. Also, this guy ran on. This guy has the exact same point of view, and he won. Take a listen.
With the vision of a city that every New Yorker could afford. We have won.
Tonight was not our night. Tonight was Assemblyman Mamdani's night, and he put together a great campaign, and he touched young people and inspired them.
So this is a huge issue, too. The fact that the guy that he was running against was a wounded politician who had to leave the governor's office after a sex scandal during I guess he was Me Too'd, and he was just not a good candidate. But I don't know that any other candidate could have matched the groundswell of support that Mamdani created. He ran a very effective campaign, but it's not only that he ran a very effective campaign. There is a huge constituency in the Democratic Party for his message. That's the point that I'm making. That's the point. It's not that he just ran a great campaign. The fact that the message that he was running on is a very prevalent and a very enticing message in the Democratic Party right now. And that's something that you need to understand. And it didn't just happen with Mamdani. This has been going on for a while, and we're going to talk about how long it's been going on. But Cuomo was not the candidate to go up against this guy, and they are hoping that they can put someone else up before the general election, because it's either going to come down to the current mayor, Eric Adams, or Mamdani. There is a Republican candidate, but he didn't have a shot. It's New York City.
And move them.
Welcome back. That was Zohran Mamdani declaring victory and Andrew Cuomo conceding defeat after Tuesday's stunning result in New York City's Democratic mayoral primary. Mamdani, a 33-year-old Democratic Socialist, centered his campaign on progressive policies like universal child care and free city buses.
A lot more
His
than
largely
that.
grassroots campaign was powered by small dollar donations and a savvy social media presence that included viral videos featuring progressive politicians and pop culture celebrities. Cuomo, meanwhile, ran a more traditional campaign backed by big-name endorsements like former President Bill Clinton and a heavy rotation of TV ads. But controversy and scandal from his time as governor hung large over his candidacy.
Of course.
The result has Democrats around the country wondering what Mamdani's victory really says about the state and the future of the Democratic Party. Here to dive into the numbers behind Mamdani's historic night is NBC News national political correspondent Steve Kornacki, who is where else at the big board.
All right, so Kornacki's getting ready to get into some of the numbers here and show who actually came out and voted for the Democratic Socialist, Mamdani, who put him over the finish line and helped him defeat Cuomo. Now, they do have ranked choice voting in New York. If you don't know what that is, ranked choice voting is basically you rank 5 candidates. If your candidate that you rank number 1 doesn't win, then your vote goes to the next candidate and the next candidate and the next candidate if your vote. So you rank 5 candidates, and if your first candidate doesn't win, then your vote isn't wasted. It goes to the next candidate, and that candidate didn't win, and it goes to the next candidate. So ranked choice had a lot to do with this. Cuomo being a very bad candidate had a lot to do with this as well. But I want you to pay attention to the type and this guy's running on socialism. He's running on affordability and the fact that people can't afford groceries and they can't afford rent and they can't afford the bus fare and all this stuff. But the people that voted for him can very well afford all that stuff. Take a listen to who voted for him.
Steve, how did he pull off this earthquake?
Yeah, Kristen, I mean, some really interesting numbers here when you take a look inside New York City. First of all, see the overall results here so far. Still some votes to be tabulated here. This won't be official for another week, but as you say, Cuomo's already conceded because, look, Cuomo felt he needed to be ahead after this initial account. They've got that ranked choice system in New York. It was pretty clear that a lot of these other candidates who weren't really in contention when their votes got reallocated in ranked choice, a lot of them had been saying to their voters, if you don't vote for me, vote for Mamdani. So the question was, could Cuomo get far enough ahead last night to withstand that? He didn't even get ahead last night. So that's why this kind of became a foregone conclusion here. We'll break this down now into some of the neighborhoods, though, because I think that's where you really start to see this. Age. You heard Cuomo cite that young voters he said Mamdani had brought out done well with. Here's a tale of two neighborhoods in New York City. This right here, Bay Terrace in Queens. This is the highest median age of any neighborhood in New York City. And look what happened here. The oldest voters, that was Cuomo's base here in this primary. He won by a better than 2-to-1 margin over Mamdani.
Because older voters, they know about socialism. Older voters, they know.
Base here.
The younger voters, they don't really know. It's more enticing to them. I don't understand why younger voters are more susceptible, especially college educated. What is going on at these colleges? But you're going to see here.
In this primary, he won by a better than 2-to-1 margin over Mamdani. Take a look now. Morningside Heights. This is up by Columbia University. This is the youngest median age of any neighborhood in New York City. And look what happened here. Mamdani won it. He won it overwhelmingly. Better than 2-to-1 against Cuomo. In fact, Cuomo came in third place in this neighborhood. So that's a pattern you saw. The younger areas were big areas for Mamdani. Also, this is a big divide we talk about in American politics, and it's big in the Democratic Party.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this, people. This is what I'm telling you. What's going on at these colleges? If you had a degree, then you're more likely to vote for Mamdani if you had an undergraduate degree. If you had a graduate degree, the more education you got, the more likely you were to vote for the Democratic Socialists.
The education divide. Mamdani doing so much better with voters who had college degrees or, look at this one, advanced degrees. That is a graduate degree or more. Almost half of the people, the adults in Park Slope, Brooklyn, have at least a graduate degree. And look at this. Mamdani got almost half the vote there. Cuomo barely registered, only 13%. A third candidate here, Brad Lander, got 34%. Other end of the education spectrum, more blue-collar, working class, no college degree. Almost 90% of the folks in Fordham Heights have no college degree. Look at this. Cuomo, again, a landslide for Cuomo there. Nearly 60% of the vote.
And listen, so his message, this is the point, that socialist, communist message is supposed to be geared towards poor people of color without college degree, working people, and the people that are voting for it the most are people with degrees, white people, upper middle class people, people with advanced degrees. What is going on here, people?
College degree, almost 90% of the folks in Fordham Heights have no college degree. Look at this. Cuomo, again, a landslide for Cuomo there. Nearly 60% of the vote, the education divide. And then, of course, we look among non-white voters here. I thought this is interesting because key core traditional part of the Democratic Party base has been black voters. This neighborhood in Queens, 84% of the adult population is black. And Mario Cuomo, listen to me, Andrew Cuomo wins overwhelmingly against Mamdani.
So black people, black voters, now you had Bill Clinton come in and endorse Cuomo. You had James Clyburn come in and endorse Cuomo. Those are huge endorsements for black voters. Black voters did not vote for the Democratic Socialist. Hispanic voters voted more for Cuomo than the Democratic Socialist. Asian voters voted more for Mamdani. I mean, he's Indian descent. He's from Africa. And then white voters too, voted for Democratic Socialism. I just find that interesting. These numbers are interesting.
84% of the adult population is black. And Mario Cuomo, listen to me, Andrew Cuomo wins overwhelmingly against Mamdani. But Cuomo did not run up similar numbers among Latino voters and Asian American voters. Taking a look here in Corona, Queens, highest Latino population, a share of the population. Look at this. It was almost a tie here. Cuomo narrowly winning. Cuomo's folks had been hoping, his campaign had been banking on something much bigger than that here. Asian American, highest concentration, Flushing, Queens, basically a tie right there as well. So that is those two groups, the Latinos, Asian Americans, early in the campaign, the Cuomo people thought that was something of a firewall. That didn't hold up for them last night, and that was a very big key in Mamdani's victory.
So this is another look at these numbers, too, that you just heard, that this is overall what Kornacki was just showing you was particular neighborhoods, but Cuomo did get the majority of overall Hispanic votes. Look at white voters here. Mamdani got more of that vote. Again, black voters voted for Cuomo. Asian voters voted for Mamdani. If you look at some of these other demographic markers, see which neighborhoods, groups drove Mamdani's success. Higher income residents, Mamdani, 42%. Middle income residents, Mamdani, 47%. Lower income residents, Cuomo. If you lower income, you didn't vote for socialism, but the socialism was supposed to help you. The socialism was supposed to make things more affordable for you, but the lower income residents voted for Cuomo. They didn't vote for socialism. More college, Mamdani. Hispanics, they voted for Mamdani. What is this? More black residents, 15% of precincts, Cuomo. Black voters did not vote for the socialism. It was mostly young, white kids, college kids that are very, very susceptible to this message of democratic socialism. And again, this didn't just happen with this guy. This guy, Mamdani, is showing what has been an issue in the Democratic Party, a festering issue going back to Bernie Sanders in 2016. And even before that, we're going to get into that in just a moment. But this is a group of young, mostly white kids celebrating the announcement of Mamdani's win. They're happy. They're really happy. They voted for some democratic socialism. This is the actress from Sex and the City, Cynthia Mixon. She represents, the type of people that came out and voted for democratic socialism. And not only the type of people that voted for democratic socialism in New York, this is the type of person that supports democratic socialism across the nation. Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders and AOC, but Elizabeth Warren too. But Bernie Sanders and AOC have been going all across the country, drawing big crowds for their Fight Oligarchy tour, Fight the Oligarchs, taking private planes all across the country to fight the oligarchs. These are the type of people that are supporting the Democratic Socialists.
It is election day. I'm on my way to vote. I don't know that I have ever been more excited to vote for anyone than I am to vote for Zohran Mamdani. I've got my button. I've got my Don't Rank Cuomo t-shirt, but I have them hidden because I'm going to a polling site. Zohran 1, Brad 2, Adrian 3, Stringer 4, Michael Blake 5. And
so those are her ranked choice votes. She's telling you how to vote ranked choice, and she tells you don't rank Cuomo. Don't put Cuomo anywhere in your rankings. And these are the type of people. She's how's she going to benefit from socialists? This woman is a multi-millionaire. She doesn't have trouble paying for bus fare. She doesn't have trouble paying for groceries. She doesn't have trouble affording rent, but she's going out and she's supporting that. And meanwhile, the people that you would think people that have lower means, people of color, poorer people are not voting for socialism. What is going on here? What's going on here? This is Mamdani. He was on CNN last night with what's her name? I forget her name. I can't believe I'm drawing blank on her name. But he was on CNN last night with this woman, this talking head. And again, the point of view that is expressed by this gentleman that was in Los Angeles doing the street interview a couple of weeks ago, saying he's against capitalism. He wants socialism. Socialism is a more humane system. This point of view that I'm telling you is a very prevalent point of view in the Democratic Party is what Mamdani says here in this interview.
So when people
Aaron
say
Burnett.
Democratic Socialist, right? And I'm curious what you think this means. I mean, do you like capitalism?
No, I have many critiques of capitalism.
No, I don't.
And I think ultimately...
I don't like capitalism. I don't like capitalism. So he doesn't... Mamdani, who is the candidate to become the next mayor of America's largest city, doesn't like capitalism, just like this guy. We don't like capitalism. We don't like capitalism. We want socialism. Socialism was a more humane system, like the USSR is what we want. No, I have major problems with capitalism.
So when people say Democratic Socialist, right? And I'm curious what you think this means. I mean, do you like capitalism?
No, I have many critiques of capitalism. And I think ultimately the definition for me of why I call myself a democratic socialist is the words of Dr. King decades ago. He said, call it democracy. Or
he's got all the quotes down, dude. This guy's sharp. I'm going to tell you right now, this guy is sharp. He knows all the King quotes. He knows all the Mandela quotes. He knows, I mean, this guy is sharp. I'm telling you, he's a 33-year-old kid that grew up with the silver spoon in his mouth. He comes from affluency. It's just so crazy that all of these, this is what Eric Blair used to talk about all the time in his essays when he worked for the BBC about how he grew up around all of these, rich, very wealthy Brits that were into socialism. And he was kind of, it kind of like shocked him because he was like, you come from means, you'd never wanted for anything in your life. Why would socialism be so appealing to you? And that's this guy right here. He says that he's never wanted for anything in his life. He grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. And he is a democratic socialist, like many of the people who voted for him, who are upper middle class, advanced degrees, voting for socialism. What's going on here, people?
For me of why I call myself a democratic socialist is the words of Dr. King decades ago. He said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. There must be a better distribution of wealth for all
distribution of wealth.
And that's what I'm focused on is dignity and taking on income inequality. And for too long, politicians have pretended that we're spectators to that crisis of affordability. We're actually actors, and we have the choice to exacerbate it, like Mayor Adams has done, or to respond to it and resolve it, like I'm.
All right, so no capitalism. I'm against capitalism, just like the guy that was protesting in Los Angeles last week and did the street interview. No capitalism. Capitalism bad. Socialism good. Take a listen to this clip. This is Fox News. They start breaking down some of his policies that he ran on. They're socialists. He's a socialist. He's socialist policies. Take a listen.
Cuomo conceded in Tuesday's primary after trailing by roughly 70,000 votes. The New York Post asking for a lifeline on today's cover, calling Mamdani's victory a, quote, political earthquake, not just for the city, but for the entire state of the Democratic Party. And this might be why. Here are just some of his plans for New York City. Watch.
And our police force should not be assisting ICE.
Defund the NYPD and refund all of these different social services.
I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores.
So defund the NYPD. Mayor Adams was having the NYPD back up ICE when ICE is out during their arrests. And so he's if this guy's elected, no more assistance from the NYPD. He's going to have the same pushback as you got from Karen Bass out in our second largest city in Los Angeles. So he wants to do the same thing that Karen Bass is doing in Los Angeles We're going to put up roadblocks against ICE doing their job. And instead of doing what Eric Adams is doing now and assisting ICE, he wants to stop ICE from stop the NYPD from assisting ICE. He also wanted to defund the NYPD. He was part of the defund the police movement. He's walked that back a little bit, but he's on record many times saying defund the police. And city-owned grocery stores, where the city of New York owns grocery stores. This stuff is crazy.
Of his plans for New York City.
And our police force should not be assisting ICE.
Defund the NYPD and refund all of these different social services. And
I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores.
City-owned grocery stores.
For produce.
I'll freeze the rent for millions of tenants, make buses fast and free, and deliver universal childcare.
The rent freezes. The guy's running, he ran on a $40 minimum wage is what this guy's talking about. Implementing a $40 minimum wage for the city of New York.
Create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce.
I'll freeze the rent for millions of tenants, make buses fast and free, and deliver universal childcare. And before you ask, I'll pay for it by taxing the rich.
The mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism.
So when he says that we're going to pay for it by taxing the rich, this is part of his plan right here. So he put this is part of the his bullet points and proposals that he put out, and I just want to read the first one because this one went viral. Shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners to the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. He puts that in his material that he's putting out, is that he's going to tax whiter neighborhoods, the white neighborhoods. He puts that in his proposal that we're going to tax the richer and whiter neighborhoods. This is crazy. Calling out, people by their race and using race to signify the type of people that you're going to levy taxes on. Whiter neighborhoods. This is crazy. This is absolute crazy. And what's even more crazy about it are the people that are voting for him are people from these white neighborhoods. The white people with advanced degrees and upper middle class incomes are the ones that are voting for him to tax the whiter neighborhoods. It's unbelievable. Chris Cuomo, who is the brother of Andrew Cuomo, who was running against the Democratic Socialists in this primary. Chris Cuomo had some words after the election about the outcome. We'll get to Chris Cuomo in a moment because there's something else that I got to show you. I want to play more of this clip, and then we'll get to Chris Cuomo because what Chris Cuomo says makes more sense after you listen to the rest of this clip. Let's listen to more.
Childcare. And before you ask, I'll pay for it by taxing the rich.
The mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism.
Mamdani was endorsed by key progressives like Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. AOC pushed for voters to choose his ultra-liberal policies. And now that her endorsement helped lock in his likely nomination, it may signal a path for AOC with voters in 2028. All
right, so that's very important what she says, that AOC and Bernie Sanders is a Democratic Socialist. AOC has been running around the country on these fight the oligarchy tours with Bernie Sanders. Not surprising that those two would endorse a Democratic Socialist for mayor of New York City. But as this correspondent says here, this is not only for AOC. AOC is trying to show that a Democratic Socialist can win, so it can open up a door for her to be the president of the United States, AOC, to be the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party in 2028. Take a listen again.
And Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. AOC pushed for voters to choose his ultra-liberal policies. And now that her endorsement helped lock in his likely nomination, it may signal a path for AOC with voters in 2028. Political commentator Chris Cillizza put it this way.
If I'm Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who, as I mentioned, endorsed Mamdani, and I see this result, I am thinking this is terrific for me. It shows that there's energy in the liberal activist base of the party. It shows that the establishment is crumbling.
There's been energy for democratic socialism. Going back to 2016, what do you think Bernie's campaign was in 2016 and 2020? There's been energy. This has been a festering problem in the Democratic Party for a long time. What are you talking about?
This is terrific for me. It shows that there's energy in the liberal activist base of the party. It shows that the establishment is crumbling, right? All these politicians
who needed to know that? Who needed to know that the establishment was crumbling? The whole party's crumbling.
It shows that there's energy in the liberal activist base of the party. It shows that the establishment is crumbling, right? All these politicians who are not AOC, other than Bernie Sanders, are in some way, shape, or form part of the establishment, right? Josh Shapiro or Gretchen Whitmer or Gavin Newsom. All these people have spent years in elected office. If I'm looking at this, I am thinking this bodes very well for me. It suggests that mad as hell Democratic voters are not going to just default back to a Joe Biden-like figure in 2028.
So, folks, there's getting ready to be next year. It is going to be glorious to watch the civil war that is going to take place in the Democratic Party. I mean, it's going to be glorious to watch because you're getting ready to see some real drag down fights and it's going to be good because there's two factions in the Democratic Party, essentially. Both, and we've been talking about it in previous podcasts, talking about the fact that they're out of money. They're going to have to borrow money to keep the lights on. Their poll numbers are, their average poll numbers, approval or favorability is below 40%. The Democratic Party is in trouble right now, in a lot of trouble. And there is a faction of Democrats who I think rightly believe that the reason that the Democratic Party is in the state that it's in currently is because they've gone too far left. And a number of other people who have since left the Democratic Party, used to be Democrat, used to work for Democrat, and no longer identify as Democrats. Even some people who still identify as Democrat, but view the party as veering off too far left. That's one faction in the Democratic Party of people that think that if we want to repair the party, that the problem with the party is that we have gone too far left. But now you're seeing this other faction in the Democratic Party. And this is the faction that Mamdani represents and AOC represents and Bernie Sanders represents and many others. Very prevalent point of view in the Democratic Party. And these people believe that the problem with the party is not that it's gone too far left. The problem with the party is that the party has not gone far enough. That the reason that the party is in shambles right now, the reason that the party is having trouble keeping the lights on at the DNC, the reason that the party is in the situation that it's in is because we haven't gone far enough. And those two factions are about to have a serious civil war within the Democratic Party next year. I want you to listen to Chris Cuomo now.
This is why immigration resonated with the many, not just MAGA. The majority is not afraid of migrants, as Trump may like, but they are afraid of these guys, Iranian nationals with jihadist sympathies. You let them in with a laxity that AOC and other radicals insisted on. And the far left is actively embracing people who are the enemy. Pro-Hamas, people who chant globalize the Intifada, the Palestinian uprising characterized by over 130 suicide bombings? Really? And I'm not picking on AOC. I respect her success in developing a following. I just think that she's killing her party. She is a deranged form of Democrat. And I'm pointing her out because she's at the top of the food chain. A recent CNN poll found she's the top Democratic leader who best reflects the core values of the Democratic Party. And this is by Democratic voters.
I want to rewind that. I want you to hear what Chris Cuomo says there again. This is a CNN poll that says that out of all these Democrats, that the one who, in this poll, the one who best reflects the values of the Democratic Party, the rising star in the Democratic Party, is AOC. AOC. That's why what Chris Salissa and what they say here in this clip is correct. That this win by Mamdani in New York City, this just a primary win, shows that there's energy for AOC in 2028, and that this faction in the Democratic Party that believes that the party has not gone far enough, that there's a lot of energy. And again, it's not just that there's a lot of energy, and this election, this primary showed that there's a lot of energy. If you've been asleep for the past 10 years, then I'll show you how, that there's been a lot of energy. There's been a lot of energy for democratic socialism, again, going back to 2016, but even before 2016. So this is not just coming out of nowhere.
CNN poll found she's the top Democratic leader who best reflects the core values of the Democratic Party, and this is by Democratic voters. She ranked higher than Harris, Jeffries, Newsom, even Obama. Are you kidding me? She couldn't be less about what made the Democratic Party great, and I get to say that. She is not a real one. I was raised by a real one. Google Mario Cuomo. Google Teddy Kennedy. Google Daniel Patrick Moynihan. Google any of the legends. You know the names. Remember the ideas. Mario Cuomo was a child of immigrants. He was considered less than himself. He would have never allowed a porous border or fake fights and socialistic calls for free everything, especially when there was a real bill to battle for Medicaid and tax breaks for the working class. AOC is popular because extremism drives social media and magnifies minorities.
So he got a lot of criticism for his commentary, saying, yeah, you're just mad that your brother lost. But he's right. And he reflects the opinions of many other Democrats, many Democrats who are rational Democrats, the Democrats that I was just telling you about, who are going to be in the Civil War with this other group of Democrats who believe that the party needs to go further to the left. He represents a large constituency in the Democratic Party that's like, no, we don't want to go there. We don't want to go socialism. We don't want to go further left. We actually need to pivot more back towards the center. So it's not just that his brother was defeated in that. He is expressing in this commentary what a lot of what I call rational Democrats, if you can even say that, are saying that, hey man, you guys are going way too far. But that's what they were saying back in 2016. That's what they were saying back in 2016 when this guy was running in 2016. They were saying, no, we can't go Democratic Socialist. and if the DNC hadn't put their finger on the scale that year for Hillary Clinton, now let's think about this. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was the chair of the DNC that year. Right before the convention in Philadelphia in 2016, Debbie Wasserman Schultz has to drop from being the chair of the party. Donna Brazile, who is the vice chair, becomes the chair and replaces her. She has to, right before the convention, because WikiLeaks puts out all of these emails showing how the Democratic Party was working against Bernie Sanders and trying to prevent him from getting the nomination, trying to use messaging against his Jewish faith and other things that they were doing within the Democratic Party to fix the primary for Hillary Clinton and rig it against the Democratic Socialists back in 2016. Bernie Sanders won many primaries, and he would win primaries in that race with Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton would end up with more delegates because that's when they were using the super delegates, and she would get the pledge delegates, and then she would get more super delegates than him. So Bernie Sanders would get more votes, but she would get more delegates, and they were rigging it. But there was energy for the Democratic Socialist message back in 2016 when this guy was running this controlled opposition right here. And if you understand, I've told you this before, that Bernie Sanders' candidacy branched out of the Occupy Wall Street movement. The Occupy Wall Street movement in New York, it ended in 2011, at the end of 2011. And the reason that it ended, if you understand what happened to Occupy Wall Street there in New York, is that the Obama administration, he didn't want this big major protest going on as he's going into re-election in 2012. He didn't want to deal with this big, PR disaster of progressives, people from his side of the aisle out in the streets protesting Wall Street and what had happened with the bailout of Wall Street and the Great Recession and all that. So Obama actually, if you understand what happened, he used the DOJ to break up this movement. The Occupy Wall Street movement was over in 2012. But the Occupy Wall Street movement gave rise to a larger movement called the Occupy movement. You see here, it says, the protest gave rise to a wider Occupy movement that was a global movement. Now, the Occupy Wall Street movement in New York, Obama got rid of that in 2011, so he didn't have to deal with that as he's going into re-election. But the global movement, it doesn't end until 2016. And this is when Bernie Sanders takes the energy from Occupy Wall Street and the Occupy movement globally. And that is what really launched his candidacy and what he was running on in 2016. All of the things that were voiced and the issues that were voiced at these Occupy movements, those became the foundation of Bernie Sanders' message when he's running against Hillary Clinton in the primary in 2016. And they rigged it against him. They rigged it against him in 2016. And then in 2020, the long-legged Mac Daddy, Bernie Sanders starts gaining momentum again in the first few primaries of that Democratic primary. I think he came in first or second place in Iowa. He wins New Hampshire, he wins Nevada, and then they go into South Carolina, and the long-legged Mac Daddy tells everyone to drop out, tells Pete Buttigieg to drop out. We're going to give you a cabinet position. Everybody drop out and endorse Biden. That's how Biden ends up regaining momentum and winning the nomination, because they were so afraid of the Democratic Socialists. They understood that if Trump is running against a Democratic Socialist, he's going to win. They understood that. Barack Obama, I believe Barack Obama agrees with a lot of the policies that Bernie Sanders and Zohran are talking about. I don't think this guy likes capitalism one bit. Although he did defend capitalism. He defended capitalism quite a bit. So I could be wrong about that. But anyway, they did not want Trump to run against Democratic Socialism. It doesn't matter if it was Bernie Sanders Democratic Socialism, AOC Democratic Socialism, or this Zohran, whoever the face of Democratic Socialism was, they understood that that was a losing message, or they believed that it was a losing message. And that's why Obama was working behind the scenes to make sure that Bernie Sanders didn't get the nomination in 2020. And they used the superdelegates and all kinds of other tricks in 2016 to make sure that he didn't get the nomination. So AOC is the heir apparent. AOC is going around the country with Bernie Sanders. AOC is the kingmaker in New York City in this mayoral race. AOC is the up-and-coming candidate for the Democratic Party. She is going to represent that wing that embraces the message of democratic socialism. So Zohran's talking about taxes and how he's going to use taxes to get all of his proposals done. Where's that clip where he talks about his tax program? Yeah, let's listen to this.
Is that we raise $10 billion to pay for our entire economic agenda and start to Trump-proof our city, because we know
$10 billion. We're going to raise $10 billion for our agenda. What's the agenda? The agenda is city-owned grocery stores. The agenda is free buses. The agenda is rent control. The agenda is tons of other stuff. Tons of other stuff. It's going to be a utopia. Everyone's going to love it. That's the agenda. But we're going to need money for the agenda. So we're going to raise $10 billion for the agenda is what he says.
I've proposed is that we raise $10 billion to pay for our entire economic agenda and start to Trump-proof our city, because we know he'll use federal funding as leverage over this city. And we will do so in two key ways. The first is to match the state's top corporate tax rate to that of New Jersey. We are at 7.25%. They're at 11.5%. Corporations can pay it over there. They can pay it over here. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't just apply to corporations.
This is the beauty. The beauty of it is
out of New Jersey. We are at 7.25%. They're at 11.5%. Corporations can pay it over there. They can pay it over here. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't just apply to corporations headquartered in New York City. Because when you say this, people will say, well, they're going to go to Florida. Mm-hmm. Wherever you are headquartered, as long as you do business in the state of New York, you are taxable for that corporate tax. We're talking about corporations that are making millions of dollars, not in revenue, but in profit. And the second is taxing the top 1% of New Yorkers. We're talking about people who make $1 million a year or more, taxing them just by a flat 2% tax increase. And I know if 50 Cent is listening, he's not going to be happy about this. Mm-hmm. He tends to not like this tax policy, but I want to be very clear. This is about $20,000 a year. It's a rounding error.
So we're going to raise taxes on corporations, and we're going to raise taxes on individuals making $1 million or more a year, is what he says. And a lot of people were saying, well, people are going to leave. People are going to, I mean, if you raise taxes on everyone, they're going to get up. They're going to go to Florida. They're going to move to another state where they don't have to pay these taxes. And this has been floated by multiple people. I haven't heard this guy float it yet, but I've heard multiple people float this, that Zohran is going to implement an exit tax, that if you try to leave, we're going to tax you for leaving. Zohran Mamdani should call for an exit tax on New York City's rich, that if anyone tries to leave to avoid the tax hikes that we're going to implement to raise $10 billion for our agenda, if you try to leave, then we're going to implement an exit tax on you. These people, boy. But it's not just the issues of socialism. It's not just the socialism issue that has gotten people riled up, which, I mean, that's enough. But it's also the fact that this guy is a Muslim and he is anti-Israel. Everything that this guy says about Palestine, that we support Palestine. Not only are we communists, not only do we reject capitalism, but we also support Palestine. And we believe that the nation of Israel should not exist, is another issue that a lot of New Yorkers, particularly Jewish New Yorkers, have with Mamdani. Take a listen.
Noah, politics aside for the moment, to me, far more frightening and far more stark than his progressive policies and plans with no backup, his lack of experience, etc., is his blatant and rife anti-Semitism.
Yes, it's horrific, to be honest with you. And this is not just terrible for Israelis and for the Jewish community. This is terrible for Americans. Let me start with the first thing that, to me, is the most violent and the most vile, which is his whitewashing of what Intifada is about. So he keeps saying that globalized Intifada means something else.
This is a saying that he has said himself many times, globalized Intifada. That's what he says. And they say, this is what they do. And they say, well, Intifada just means uprising. You know, it's just, you can have peaceful uprisings, that there were many peaceful uprisings. Doesn't mean anything violent. But when Intifada, when the word was first used, by Palestinians. There was a lot of violence associated with it. Let's just say that.
It is not true. I have lived through 2 intifadas. I know exactly what they mean. An intifada means a violent uprising against the Jews. It means car bombing and bus bombing and ramming through people with cars. It means stabbing and shooting. That's what that means. And to globalize that means to take into America and into Western civilization what we have been through in the Middle East.
So even if it's peaceful, what does that mean? Even if it's peaceful, what are you talking about? You're talking about a global uprising. Even if it was peaceful, and we know there's nothing peaceful associated with these people, but even if it was, even if you could assume that they mean peaceful uprising, what does that look like globally? What does that look like globally? But he has said that many times, and many of his supporters have talked about globalizing the uprising, globalizing the intifada. Take a listen to this clip.
Lefties are having a meltdown, claiming a dramatic rise in Islamophobia after Zohran Mamdani's victory over Andrew Cuomo to become the Democratic candidate for mayor of New York City. Mamdani is a 33-year-old Southeast Asian politician who identifies as Muslim, as well as a self-proclaimed socialist. His campaign attracted him a lot of attention because of its distinct creative and cultural flair.
बात ये नहीं है कि मैं क्या बनूंगा, बात ये है कि मैं क्या करूंगा हमारे कम्युनिटीज के लिए और हर एक न्यूयॉर्कर के लिए। मैं हमारे शहर को अफोर्डेबल बनाऊंगा। न्यूयॉर्कर्स मुश्किल से अफोर्ड कर रहे हैं रोटी, कपड़ा और मकान। मैं ये सब बदलने के लिए लड़ रहा हूं।
But since Mamdani's win, New Yorkers have expressed fear as multiculturalism turns to fundamentalism. A group of Muslim men gathered in Times Square for prayer, which was confronting for many residents.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
It's Times Square. Times Square. Can you imagine visiting Times Square with your family and you stumble on this?
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Akbar.
This commentator responded to the footage, saying New York is in serious trouble. And this commentator agreed, saying, Pam Bondi, is it legal to have our US streets overtaken like this? Do we not have rights in our country?
Unfortunately, it is.
Leftists are using the legitimate fear as an excuse to once again call their fellow Americans Islamophobic.
Islamophobia, and that's what they're calling. No, this is real. You better have a phobia about this. This is a real issue that you need to understand what is going on with Islam. And it's not it's just like, how racism is overused. Everything that's called racism is not racism. Everything that's called homophobia is not homophobia. Everything that's called transphobia is not transphobia. And Islamophobia, just like anti-Semitism and all these others, these are just words that are used so they can avoid criticism. That if I say that this is Islamophobia, then it's going to shut down anyone being critical of what is actually going on. And we're going to talk here in a moment about what's actually going on here and why you should be concerned. You can call it Islamophobia, whatever. I'm concerned. I'm highly concerned with what's going on in this country with the immigration of people that are loyal to Islam above anything else immigrating into this country. People that want to bring Sharia law into this country. That's what global, even if you assume that the intifada, globalized the intifada means, something peaceful. In a peaceful sense, that means that the whole world is Sharia law. That's what they believe. That's what you got to understand about, the Islamic religion and what Muslims believe. They believe Sharia law is God's law, and Sharia law should govern the entire globe. It's hilarious because so many people are worried about Christian nationalists and saying that the Christian nationalists want Christianity to govern the entire country. Well, The Islamists want Sharia law to govern the entire world. And you need to understand that. It's not Islamophobic. It's absolutely a real concern that you should understand.
This leftist commentator said, the reaction to Mamdani's win last night shows how widespread Islamophobia is, how ingrained it is. It's part of our culture. It's normalized in the national conversation. Unlike anti-Semitism in the press, it's not looked at as negative. It's seen as legitimate political position. And this commentator agreed, saying, man, the rank Islamophobia and xenophobia around Mamdani has been apoplectic. So much fear-mongering and dog whistles to distort public discourse. People desperately need media literacy. Yuck. But conservative commentator Melanie Phillips hit back, saying the term Islamophobia is an excuse to silence any opposition.
Absolutely.
Is it Islamophobic to actually point out the warnings that there is a difference between Islam and Islamist, or Muslims and Islamists? And Islamists are extraordinarily dangerous and
absolutely
are working to subvert and overtake us. Is that,
well, not only
is that wrong?
Not only is there nothing wrong in that, it is absolutely essential that we speak out and understand this process. Islamophobia is a pernicious doctrine. We should all be against prejudice and bigotry against Muslims and against anyone else.
She's absolutely right. I don't have very much time. I just want to get through some of this stuff because Charlie Kirk got into some hot water because he said 24 years ago, a group of Muslims killed 2,753 people on 9/11. Now a Muslim socialist is on pace to run New York City. And he got a lot of flack from that. People were calling it Islamophobic or whatever. And this is the wrong way to go. People, Muslims had nothing to do with 9/11 except the fact that they were framed for 9/11. They're putting out memes like this with the Statue of Liberty with the burqa on, holding the Quran. This is a post memes with the Twin Towers smoking on 9/11, the white smoke, and this is a play on the courier, the conclave in Rome selecting a new pope. That the white smoke means NYC Dems have elected a new candidate, joking about, that the Muslims had something to do with 9/11. No, Muslims were framed for 9/11. So this is the wrong way to go. Just like the anthrax letters, which after 9/11, if you don't know, if you're too young and don't know, about a week after 9/11, someone started mailing anthrax to all of the news agencies first. They mailed it to ABC, NBC, other news agencies, one in Florida, and then they started mailing anthrax to members of Congress. Tom Daschles, Patrick Leahy got some anthrax. Each one of those letters that were sent with the anthrax in that attack just after 9/11 contained a letter that looked like this. The letter says, you can't stop us. We have this anthrax. You die now. Are you afraid of the question mark? Death to America, death to Israel, Allah is great. And at the top, 09/011/01. This is someone framing a Muslim for this attack right after 9/11. We know where this anthrax came from. It didn't come from a Muslim. This is American anthrax, came from America. But just like someone tried to frame Muslims using this letter in the anthrax letter, death to America, death to Israel, Allah is great. That's exactly what happened during 9/11. That 9/11, it was intended to frame Muslims. You see here that these buildings are these buildings are not falling under their own weight. After the planes hit the Twin Towers, both of the Twin Towers stood for almost a half hour after being hit by the planes. So what you got to understand is that the planes didn't have a immediate effect in bringing down the buildings. The buildings' structural integrity stood after the planes hit the buildings. So when the buildings do fall, and they tell us that they fell because of structural integrity caused by fire, you should see these buildings falling under gravity in whole pieces. You do not see these buildings falling under gravity in whole pieces. You see these buildings being pulverized. This is explosive. This is explosives in the buildings that are pulverizing these buildings. These buildings are not falling under gravity, under their own weight because of structural damage. This is explosives throughout this building. Muslims did not put explosives in these buildings. This is right here. This is the one of the towers in just being pulverized. No whole pieces of concrete falling to the ground. This is just dust being pulverized and spread throughout all of lower Manhattan. This is not, these are explosives. Muslims didn't do this. I'm sorry, Charlie Kirk. Muslims did not do this.
No, a bomb, I saw it. No plane hit, nothing.
That is not a plane. They don't know what they're talking about. How would they see a plane hit that?
Dude, I saw the second explosion. That was no plane that hit the second building. It exploded from the inside out.
It was a bomb. Bomb in another building, not second plane. That was a bomb. Who said the second plane?
That's what we're told, the second plane. We saw it on television.
Everything.
All right, well, thanks a lot.
What happened was I was down in the basement. All of a sudden we heard a loud bang. And the elevator doors blew open. Some guy was burnt up. So I dragged him out. He's
Muslims did not put explosives in the buildings. And this is what George Bush said, after 9/11, once he's executing the war on terrorism, taking us to Afghanistan, I think that we were already in Iraq when he does this interview. I want you to listen to what George Bush says.
That's through the constitutional process. Let me ask some questions about faith, which is a tough subject to talk about. You have called at times this battle against terrorism a crusade.
I said it once and probably shouldn't have used that word.
Do you think God is involved in this conflict?
I don't think this is a religious war. I think this is a war between evil people that are willing to kill on a mass scale, people that would like to end up with weapons of mass destruction and even kill more than they did in New York City and
But you've used
Washington,
a phrase
D.C.
that interests me, which is you said freedom is a gift of the Almighty.
It is.
And if you're the agent of freedom, or consider yourself so in this, does that indicate in your mind that the Almighty is on our side in some way?
Charlie, I think that you shouldn't try to read too much into what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a truth. And the truth is people yearn to be free, no matter who they are or what their religion is. Freedom is ingrained in people's souls. Freedom was not placed there by the United States. It was, my judgment, it was placed there by something greater, the Almighty.
Do we all worship the same God, Christian and Muslim?
I think we do.
I think we do. George Bush says, I think that Christians and Muslims worship the same God, Charlie Kirk. That he believes that Christian and Muslims worship the same God, is what he said. And after 9/11, as he's executing the war on terrorism, he went around many times saying, we're not at war with Islam, that Islam is not our enemy. Meanwhile, he's bombing Muslim countries. He's bombing Iraq and destabilizing the Middle East, and then all of those Muslims, because he's destabilized those regions, they have to come into the United States as refugees. So we're bringing in all of these Muslims from countries, from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from all over the Middle East, because he and his foreign policy, while he's saying that we're not at war with Islam, is so destabilizing those regions that we're having to bring into these people who, honestly, culturally, we do not mix. We do not worship the same God. Muslims and Christians do not worship the same gods. The Shahada is Antichrist, 100% Antichrist. This is the Shahada. The Shahada is the profession of faith that every single Muslim has to cite for them to become a Muslim. If you don't cite the Shahada, then you are not a Muslim. Shahada is the Muslim profession of faith, and this is the Shahada. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his prophet. That is Antichrist. We do not worship Muslims and Christians do not worship the same God. And the Shahada, you have to understand where the Shahada came from. The Dome of the Rock, the dome that is there in Jerusalem, that is sitting on top of what was the Jewish temple. This has a great deal to do with the conflict that is going on with the Jewish state right now. And even with the United States, you have to understand that. You have to understand the night journey. The night journey is where we get the Shahada. Take a listen.
Imagine a journey beyond the limits of this world. This is the miraculous story of Al-Isra and Al-Miraj. One night, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him, was taken from Makkah on a journey that would change everything. The Buraq, a creature faster than lightning, carried him to Jerusalem in the blink of an eye.
So Muhammad in the 7th century is what Muslims tell you, that he rode this magical winged horse from Mecca, which is in Saudi Arabia, in one night, all the way from Mecca to Jerusalem. And then this is what happens in Jerusalem at the place of the Dome of the Rock. What they tell you happened during the ride of Isra, and what happened in the night journey with Muhammad happens exactly at this place where the Dome of the Rock is. You have to understand all of this. You don't understand anything what's going on over there if you don't understand this stuff.
Lightning carried him to Jerusalem in the blink of an eye. At Al-Aqsa Mosque, he led all prophets in prayer, uniting them in faith. Then he ascended through the 7 heavens, meeting the great prophets of the past. At the Lote tree, he received the gift of Salah, 5 daily prayers for all Muslims. As dawn broke, he returned with this divine gift connecting us to Allah. So,
in one night, he goes to Jerusalem. He goes to heaven. He gets the 5 what do you call them? The 5 I think pillars or something like that. He gets the Shahada, which is the testament of faith, and then he rides back on this magical horse in one night to back to Mecca. And that's why the Dome of the Rock is the 3rd holiest site for all Muslims, Mecca, Medina, and the Dome of the Rock, because this is a place where Muhammad flew on the winged horse in one night and then went to heaven, and God told him that he's the prophet, and that, and gives him all the rules for Islam in that night. Barack Obama, after he was elected, just months after he was elected, he goes to Egypt and he gives this huge speech to the Muslim world. And this is a guy who grew up in a Muslim family with his stepfather in Indonesia. He said that the call to prayer was the most beautiful sound that he ever heard. He goes over, as soon as he's elected, goes to Egypt after George Bush had been executing the global war on terrorism against all of these Muslims, and at the same time saying that, we're not at war with Islam. We pray to the same God and all this stuff. So then Obama comes in, and I come in as the peace candidate. This is why he won the Nobel Peace Prize, even though he continued Bush's foreign policy. He comes in and says, I'm the peace candidate. We're going to stop all of this wars that are going on in the Middle East with Muslims. And this is what he says. He recites the Shahada. I mean, not the Shahada. He recites the story of Isra, which the people in Egypt and the Muslim world, they understood what he was saying very well. Americans who had just voted for Barack Obama, they didn't know what he was talking about here. But take a listen.
Too many tears have been shed. Too much blood has been shed. All of us, everyone knows to be true. Too many tears have been shed. Too much blood has been shed. All of us have a responsibility to work for the day when the mothers of Israelis and Palestinians can see their children grow up without fear. When the Holy Land of the 3 great faiths is the place of peace that God intended it to be. When Jerusalem is a secure and lasting home for Jews and Christians and Muslims, and a place for all of the children of Abraham to mingle peacefully together, as in the story of Isra. As in the story of Isra, when Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, peace be upon them, joined in prayer.
So he recites the story of Isra there to the Muslim world. in Egypt. And you got to understand all of this and that you should be concerned with what's going on with, the city of New York, America's largest city, about to elect not only a Muslim as their mayor, but a Democratic Socialist Muslim who is against Israel and supports the global intifada. I'm almost done. I know that I'm going way over today, but I wanted to finish this up because I think that it's important. The divisions of Islam, Dar al-Islam, Dar al-Ahar. What does this mean? And this is part of Islamic belief, Dar al-Islam and Dar al-Ahar, which means house or abode of Islam. And then Har is war, abode, house of war. I have a clip here that explains Dar al-Islam and Dar al-Ahar.
Have you ever wondered what the term Dar al-Islam means in the context of Islamic law? This concept is essential for understanding how Islamic governance operates. Dar al-Islam translates to House of Islam. It refers to regions where Islamic law is practiced and where Muslims form the majority. Interestingly, it can also include places where Muslims are not the majority, yet Islamic law is still enforced.
All right, I don't have a lot of more time. So just real briefly, Dar al-Islam are all the places on the earth. I'm telling you that what Muslims believe is that the entire world is going to be under Sharia law at some time. It's really interesting because Richard Dawkins, who is the famed atheist, he wrote The God Delusion, and he's an atheist. He doesn't believe in any religion at all. He made a lot of headway and drew a lot of attention a few years ago. I guess it was about a year ago or 2 years ago when he said that he is a cultural Christian. And he's pressed on it in this interview where he says, I mean, he's an atheist. That's what he's known for, is atheism. He's against religion. But he says that he is a cultural Christian because he understands that, and he's from England. He's seen what happened to London with their Muslim mayor. And he says that I would prefer he says that I don't want any religion at all. I'm an atheist. I don't want any religion at all. That's not an option. But he says that if I had to choose between the Christian religion or the Muslim religion, I choose the Christian religion. So he started calling himself a cultural Christian because he understood what was going on with Dar al-Ahar and Dar al-Islam. This is a Canadian Muslim. He's being interviewed in Canada, and he goes into what the concept of Dar al-Ahar and Dar al-Islam, abode, house of war, house of Islam, what it really means. Take a listen.
What would happen to a gay couple in Palestine, sir?
What?
What would happen to a gay couple in Gaza?
Executed according to Islamic law.
They will be executed.
Islam doesn't endorse gayism. Islam doesn't endorse homosexuality. Just like Canada doesn't endorse a lot of things.
And do you think that's good?
If I were to...
Do you think that's good, sir? Do you think it's good for gays?
In Canada, I would get executed, right? I would get prosecuted. In the same way, Islam doesn't approve of being gay.
I see. Okay, so would you like to see Sharia law in Canada replace Canadian law?
At some point it will.
One day.
Because we have families, we are making babies. You're not. Your population is going down the slump. That's right? Yeah. And by 2060, according to Pew Research Institute, your research, by 2060, Muslims will be the biggest religious group the world over. What are you going to do then?
Actually,
are you going to oppose Sharia even then?
Well, you know what? I'm very appreciative of the honesty. We don't usually get that. So you do support Sharia. You do want a Muslim majority nation in the West End.
Yeah, right? They all do.
Just like you had a Western majority nation in a land of Native Americans, one day we can have a Muslim majority nation here in Canada.
So what he's expressing is the Islamic religion. Sharia law worldwide, that is the eventual goal of Islam, without a doubt. He goes a little bit further. I want you to listen to, in this clip, he goes a little bit further. I just want you to pay attention. We're almost done.
To a gay couple in Gaza.
Executed according to Islamic law. Islam doesn't endorse gayism. Islam doesn't endorse homosexuality.
Okay, so would you like to see Sharia law in Canada replace Canadian law?
At some point it will. Because we have families, we are making babies. You're not. Your population is going down the slump, right? By 2060, Muslims will be the biggest religious group the world over. What are you going to do then? We owe our allegiance and our loyalty first and foremost to our religion.
We owe our allegiance and our loyalty first and foremost to our religion. You have to understand that. He's not expressing something that is unique to him as a Muslim. All Muslims believe this. You can't be a Muslim unless you believe this. This is what they believe.
Muslims will be the biggest religious group the world over. What are you going to do then? We owe our allegiance and our loyalty first and foremost to our religion, not to the Queen, to be honest. When I went for my so-called oath, I was silent. I didn't say anything.
Listen to that. So he's saying, when I went for my so-called oath, when I came over from wherever country I came from, Pakistan, Iran, Syria, when I came over and I got citizenship in Canada, and I went for my oaths, just like you do here in the United States. When you become a citizen here in the United States, you put up your hand, you say an oath, and you say the Pledge of Allegiance, and you basically announce your allegiance and your loyalty to this nation. This guy says that when I came in, so it's built on deceit. That's what you got to understand. It's built on deceit. He says, when I came into Canada and they told me to say the oath, that I didn't say the oath. I was quiet. I said, I didn't say the oath. Listen.
I went for my so-called oath. I was silent. I didn't say anything. It was your responsibility to make sure you got it out of me.
It was your responsibility to make sure you got it out of me. I was silent. I didn't say anything. So yeah, you should be concerned with a Muslim, Democratic Socialist, who doesn't like capitalism, who says globalize the intifada. You should have a problem with that. It should concern you that a person like that is going to be running or has the potential to run the United States' largest city. And it's not Islamophobia, it's not xenophobia, it's not any of that. It's being smart. I'll see you guys on Monday. Sorry it went so long. You guys have a great weekend.